good evening to all of you future millionaires out there today. Today I have with me an author by the name of Justin Glazer. He has written the instant bestseller, Sweat, Uncovering Your Body's Hidden Superpower. After facing a health crisis in his early 20s, Justin became his own advocate and researched solutions to his challenges. Sweat is the result of his recovery and is part of his mission to share this information with the world. Sweat explores sweat's wildly underappreciated role in health, vitality, and disease prevention. Through expert interviews, scientific studies, and personal anecdotes, it reveals an entirely new way of thinking about our health. I want to welcome you today, Justin. This is a topic that we all need to study, we all need to hear about, and we appreciate you for bringing it on this show today.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all, man. So just with the just with the atmosphere, the temperature, um, everyone going through society that had just came off of a deadly pandemic, epidemic, whatever it is that you want to call it. People are questioning health. People are questioning scientists. And at this point in time, people are looking for different other than medicine. They're looking for different ways to cure themselves. They're looking for natural ways. And your book speaks on that, which is your body's hidden superpower, sweat. So can you tell us how you kind of went into studying this and how you came about knowing about this?
Yeah, I mean, 5 years ago, I never would have expected this to be an area I'd research or put a book together for. Like I said, like you presented in the intro, I had health challenges in my early 20s. That was a lot of fatigue, brain fog, anxiety symptoms, and things like that. That by the time I graduated from school, I just felt really like if I didn't get that handled, things were not going to go great for me. Not that anyone looked at me and said, you need to go to the hospital, but I just felt intuitively that something was wrong and it was impacting my quality of life in a big way. And so I became obsessed with figuring out what was causing it. And so I went to Western doctors, I got blood tests, gene tests, changed my diet, pills, everything under the sun to try and fix this. And then also Eastern approaches, which is more the Eastern philosophy of like herbalism and acupuncture and Reiki and all these other disciplines. Ultimately, for like 18 months, I went through a ton of different attempts to improve my symptoms, but nothing really helped. And I was recommended to try a sauna. So I went into a sauna one day, sat in there for 30 minutes and sweat really heavily. But after I got out of the shower, I felt better than everything else had done for me combined. And I didn't know why. So I made that, I said, I'm going to keep doing this and figure out why it's helping me so much. And so I kept doing sauna. And over the course of like another year, I went from feeling that terrible, like 2 out of 10 kind of level of health to feeling like I was a kid again, like light years ahead of how I'd been feeling. And during that time, I was also researching and becoming part of communities and understanding the theory behind why that was the case. And so it became very clear to me that there was a logical reason why this helped me and why I was helping so many other people. And so that's why we can go into the theory behind that, but that's the reason I decided to put this book together, because no one had, once you understand it, it's very intuitive, it's very logical, but it's not the kind of common programming for how we think about taking care of our health. Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay. So the common program would be just the Western way of doing things, the
Yeah.
just modern medicine, and you would describe that that's what would be the common way is going to the doctor just kind of taking your blood pressure and telling you or test or whatever and saying take this pill, that pill, and Basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
in this research process, probably similar to what you found in your finance research for money, is you begin to realize there are different schools of thought, and then you start to realize what schools of thought lead to certain outcomes. So the Western school of thought for health is more focused on disease. So it's more like we have a sick person, how do we best take care of them? It's not how do we make the most healthy, vibrant people we possibly can. And so that kind of lens for how you look at it is different in different communities. And like the natural health community, that's more the focus. Also more Eastern kind of overall. And so because of that kind of lens and how you see the world, it affects the kind of information you decide to act on. And so that was a big part of the research process, is realizing there's different schools of thought, kind of field testing what works and what doesn't work, and then coming to these kind of unique conclusions. And they're battle tested as well. They're kind of proven in the same way you can test different financial models and see what works and doesn't work. You can test, okay, what's the theory behind why this works or doesn't work, and have people tested it. And I have lots of case studies kind of proving the thesis of the book, which I can go into if you'd like. Kind of
Yes,
the thesis.
yes, I would like very much so.
Yes. So the main thesis is we have a massive underestimation of toxins and chemicals impact on our health. And
Okay.
that's actually arguably a primary cause of mental health issues and physical issues. And so when I started researching toxins as part of this research, my first thought was probably most people like it's this weird fringe woo-woo thing. And as I talked to experts and started researching it and going through PubMed articles and just thinking it through logically, it became clear like, oh, I think this seems to be actually like the thing, like the root cause of a lot of problems. And so I think of it more like finding it more like these substances that reliably, predictably cause harm in the body.
Right.
And so that's the problem. And then in terms of solution, it's like, well, how do you minimize your exposure to this stuff, and how do you get it out that's in your body? And the way to get it out, and the research really the last 20, 30 years proving this, is actually through sweat. So the skin's the largest detox organ, essentially. And they've done studies where they've scraped people who are sweating, say in a sauna, and tested it for chemicals and toxins, and found substances in the sweat that they aren't finding in the blood and the urine, because it's preferentially excreted through the sweat.
Got it.
And so myself and thousands of other people have experienced the benefits of sweating to get these substances out of the body. And the results for me were radically increased energy, brain fog gone, mental clarity up. Not medical advice, but I got sick way less, which is a common experience for people. And so, yeah, kind of that pairing of problem solution. In hindsight, it looks so obvious to me, but it's not something that's discussed or integrated into the culture. And so for me, in the same way someone's like, it's healthy to get to the gym, I want the conversation to be, I need to detoxify because we're exposed to all these substances, and I break down the categories of how we're exposed. So it makes sense for me to get in a sauna 3 to 4 times a week. It's like, for me and a lot of other people now, it's a no-brainer to do that, but it's not in the culture yet. So that's part of why I wrote the book.
Got it. And the reason for it not being in the culture, would you say is due to just the Western world way of doing things, underlying issue being capitalism?
Uh, I would, I think that's a big part of it. The incentive structure for why information is shared. It's not if for there's no incentive for Western medicine to kind of take these ideas on and run with them. So even if they believe every study that supports this thesis, even if there's a helicopter going above. Wow, I never heard that before. Something's going on in Brooklyn. Even if it was totally accepted, there's no change on the system's part. So it's kind of like a big corporation it's like a big ship that can only turn so much. You need little startups to come in and be disruptive. So the ideas, that's why I wrote the book, because I think it's hard for ideas to kind of spread in the current system. Eastern's more open to it. And the first chapter of the book is actually kind of sweat and sauna history. And that was part of the fascinating research is this isn't some new fad. Around the world, I go into all the cultures that have some sort of sweat or sauna ritual. Native American sweat lodges, Russian banya, German Aufguss, African sweat lodges, Peruvians, like all these cultures around the world for centuries have prioritized sweating. And that was before the modern issue, which is really the last 60 years of this chemical revolution, where we've introduced tens of thousands of chemicals into the environment. and now it's more important than ever. So it's nice to see. It's not like, ooh, let me just sell you this new fad that just came out. But no, we've been doing this forever for a long time. We've forgotten it. And now there's an even bigger reason to do it than ever before.
So, man, it makes sense because okay, the way that I basically was raised, and I know just like my family, it's understood that you listen to your grandmother when you're sick. You listen to your grandmother's remedies, right?
Yeah.
So the remedy always, no matter what the remedy is, it always relates to sweat. Now
Oh,
that you're putting it that way. So what we're told when you get a cold, when you have the flu, when you have an illness, basically do something like Vicks on your feet and put socks on, heavy socks.
mm-hmm.
Then you drink um, boiled whiskey and tea. You boil
Mm-hmm.
whiskey and tea and honey, and all of this concocts to make you sweat.
Right.
Over the night, you put on a really heavy blanket. So that if you were to add, and I'm gonna say the black community, you will
Yeah.
probably get like 90 out down south. Let me say, let me change it to say down south. You will
Okay.
probably get most people know about a high tidy, they know about the heavy blanket, the quilt, and they know about the socks on the feet when you go to sleep. And
Interesting.
basically, what that's all to do at the end of the day is to make you sweat.
So your grandma would come in and go, "Oh, good, he sweat a lot." That
Yeah,
would be the.
yeah. That,
There
that's
you go.
the purpose. That would be the
Right.
purpose behind it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's fascinating. I hadn't heard that story. One of the
yeah,
quotes in
man.
my book. One of the quotes in my book is this old Greek philosopher Hippocrates. Was a physician, and his quote was, "Give me a fever, and I can cure any disease." And so the idea of getting a sweat on. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was cool to hear. Cool story.
If even going back to if you watch old movies, I'm a movie geek, but it has to be certain movies. It has to be historical, and it has to be telling just old biographical, but way back in the day movies. But anytime you see that and someone was sick, whether they were stabbed or just happened to be falling under some type of illness, they
Mm-hmm.
always had some little old lady saying, a spell over them, and
Yeah.
they're sitting there shaking and sweating.
Yeah.
So now that you say that, that's like the basis of all of those movies is somewhere shaking and sweating. And then the next scene, they're well, they're back to themselves.
There you go. There it is.
Yeah, man. So I get it. I'm visualizing what you're saying. But
Yeah.
because you're saying it's a study, sometimes these things are just passed down and it's for reasons that are not Western medicine. Eastern medicine, it seems, is more natural. Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say. I think it's more proactive versus reactive. And
Okay.
so in the Eastern approach, it's almost like, how do you build up your health and energy and vitality so that you have more of a buffer between you and getting sick,
Right.
versus Western is more, what do we do once you're sick? And we
Right.
don't think about getting super healthy to prevent sickness from coming on.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Um, you have a chapter about saunas specifically?
Yeah, yeah. So I break down kind of all the ways. So first, I lay out kind of the history of the sweat lodges and all that, just to give some sense that this isn't some new fad. Then I go into the toxin component. So breaking down, make hopefully by the end of that, people go, okay, this is a real issue that's actually affecting me and everyone I know in ways we can't see really, because it's kind of an invisible issue that, which is like a toxic soup we're all in. Our clothes, the air, the cars, the paint in the walls, the flame retardants in the couch. We're just exposed to all this stuff that is in everyone. If everyone got tested, you just have these substances in you, and they have different effects. So that issue. Then the science of sweat. So showing the studies showing these chemicals being excreted through sweat, and the new research proving that that's what's actually happening. And then kind of the ways to sweat, right? And so you can go to hot yoga, you can sauna, you can exercise in the Florida heat or something like that, and try and get a really big sweat on. But really, the kind of crown jewel, the best way to sweat and kind of what you're after is like at least 20 minutes of really heavy sweating, where like you're sweating, you take a towel, you wipe, and new sweat appears for like 20 minutes. Like that's what you need to kind of get this stuff out 3 times a week minimum. Sauna is the best way to do that. And so I talk about the different types of saunas, how to go about saunaing, how to make it a part of your life easily, and kind of make it practical so that you can act on the information.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Understood. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Saunas are very, very uncomfortable. Let's say at first, right?
Yes. Like exercise is
So
uncomfortable at first.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
is there a change out? I know saunas get right down to it, right? Saunas are made for that reason, get right down to it and make you sweat. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I guess it would kind of be like, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be the difference between doing uh, being on a treadmill, doing
Yeah.
cardio, the difference between walking and running while you're doing your cardio.
Yeah. So there's two types of saunas. There's two primary ones. So there's dry saunas and infrared saunas. And so infrared sauna is a newer invention, and it's actually better for your detox. There's at least one study showing that you're sweating out more heavy metals and chemicals in the sweat, but both are fantastic. So dry sauna is more that traditional. You imagine people, you know, looking like they're like being tortured in there. It's like so hot, and it's like it's unpleasant. But even that, it's in the same way with exercise. You kind of increase your tolerance
Right.
level, and you get to a point where it's like 30 minutes is a breeze for me. But infrared sauna is funny enough. You actually probably sweat more, but it's raising your core body temperatures, so it doesn't feel as hot, and it's not as much of a resilience test. So infrared sauna is a great way to do it, without it feeling like that, like I'm going in to torture myself kind of feeling,
Right.
which is not the goal, right? So it's like even if you're doing dry sauna, if you get exhausted, step out, drink some water, and get back in. It's about making it part of your life, not proving your toughness. It's just
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
really doing it for that detox component. And there's other ancillary benefits to sauna specifically, but on the sweat side, it's the getting it out.
Okay. Okay. Um, detoxification, the word.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
anyone that's listening, can you give us a clear and concise definition for either detoxification or what it means to detoxify?
Yeah, it's the removal of toxins from the body. So it's the process of first acknowledging that you have toxins in your body, which when you read the book, it becomes very clear you do. And if you went and got, a heavy metals test or anything like that, you would see that you do just because you're human on the planet. And then detoxification is how you get those substances out of your body. And so I argue the best way is through sweat. When you go to the bathroom, you're getting some of this stuff out. When you take binders and other things to excrete it through your system, those are kind of the two main ways: is through sweat or through urine, or out the other end. So those are, that's kind of what I mean by detoxification. Or you vomit, right? I mean, vomit is also like you've been poisoned through alcohol or something like that, and you vomit as a way to detoxify.
Yes.
Yes.
So, um,
Not as a regular practice, of course. I just meant it in terms of like like your body is doing that when you're hungover or something like that, as a way to purge and get toxins out of your system.
to get toxins out of it. So
Yeah.
if you're drunk or full of drugs and happen to go to happen to go to jail, they're going
Yeah.
to put you in a room by yourself so you can detoxify, meaning get
Yeah.
all of that out of your system.
Yeah. And people love to sauna. I actually don't drink anymore, but people love to sauna after drinking the night before, even if it's just a little bit, because it also detoxifies some of the hangover symptoms. And then funny enough, one of the most effective drug rehab protocols, I'm not sure for alcohol, but drug specifically, is a sauna protocol that involves taking niacin and getting in the sauna. We can get into what that means, but essentially taking a vitamin that opens your fat cells, which is where a lot of chemicals and drug residue stores, and then sweating it out. It enters the bloodstream and you sweat that out. And by getting it out of your system, there's an argument that what's in your system craves more of it. And so by getting it out, it reduces your craving and addiction. And so it's part of some drug rehab protocols is the sauna component.
That it's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
In the 8th grade, when I first started being a part of an athletic program, playing football and whatnot, niacin was the big thing. I was just about to ask you about this. Niacin was the big vitamin.
Okay.
And when around that same time is when people start smoking weed around the 8th grade, 9th grade. And
Yep.
niacin, they said if you wanted to, we kind of in the 10th grade start trying to get jobs and whatnot. If you wanted to clean your body out, if you want to clean your system out of the drugs, take
Yeah.
niacin.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, is that an aspect of it?
It is. So niacin does something, not to get too technical in the weeds, but it does something called lipolysis. So a lot of these substances store in the fat. They're called lipophilic. They're fat loving. And so when they get in your system, they just kind of they go into fat cells. And niacin has this miraculous property that opens your fat cells about 3 hours after taking it and allows the toxins to get released into your bloodstream. And so for weed, I'm sure most of you guys were just peeing it out. Hopefully that was enough of it to get it out. But you time that with the sauna and you're getting a much deeper detoxification from it. So yes, people do it for weed tests and things like that. But it's also used for, personally, I've done a 30-day niacin sauna protocol, and it's something it kind of is like the peak of this. My last chapter in the book is this protocol, because it kind of takes all these ideas and says, all right, you believe toxins are a problem. You believe sweat helps. You believe sauna is the best way to sweat. Now here's like the next level, which is taking niacin and pairing that with the sauna, among a few other things. And you should do it knowing what you do. And I can link to some helpful resources, or people can get the book. But essentially, that allows you to detox years of stored toxins. And so the example I use, if you think of like extreme toxin exposure, was 9/11 victims. So thousands of 9/11 victims. It looked like just a smoky fog for, I don't know how many days it was like that, but the people who were exposed got extreme doses of toxicity. Right. People, I interviewed multiple 9/11 survivors, asthmatic problems, tremors, brain fog, chronic fatigue, couldn't go to work, mood disorders, all sorts of things. And, first step is kind of Western doctors. They put them on inhalers and pills and things. Nothing really made a dent in terms of people's symptoms. And then they put a program together where they put 500 people through the niacin sauna protocol. All 500 of them got better. All 500 of them, 87%, I think, were able to get off of medication in the first 6 months. One of the women I interviewed, she sounded like Darth Vader. Before, her daughter wouldn't let her drop her off at school. She sounded so bad. And afterwards, when she showed up at Capitol Hill to advocate for this protocol, before and after she went through it, and they didn't recognize her after because she improved so much. And so ultimately, thousands of people went through that protocol. And it worked because it got to the root cause, which was the toxicity in the fat cells. And this protocol does that. And so that extreme example we've seen in other instances, such as like Agent Orange exposure, oil spills, things like that, where this protocol is super effective and shows you kind of at the extreme how helpful it is. But ultimately, the conclusion I reached is it would benefit everyone, essentially. Everyone, like the rationale makes sense for everyone to go through this to improve their kind of subjective well-being, how you feel day to day, but also stave off disease and potential other things that could be lurking in your future. And so that's something that I'm passionate about and would like to see more resources or a nonprofit organized around it, or a for-profit company organized around it to bring that to the public. In the same way, it's like, of course, gyms are a part of life. Of course, that's something we do. The logic you kind of arrive at after the end of this book is, of course, everyone should be going through the niacin sauna protocol. It's silly not to. And so that's part of kind of like I said, kind of the end note of the book in terms of like putting all these ideas together. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so. very
Okay.
much so. It's basically the same as the protocol, and a lot of people have been picking up on this: more healthier eating, more clean eating, but also kidney detox, liver detox. What you're
Mhm.
saying is basically, you know, detox the chemicals and the toxins as well, not just those detoxes, but do this as well.
Yeah, it's storing, and it's kind of gray in terms of like where this stuff stores in the body. And so one of my frustrations is if you step on a scale, you get an exact reading of what your weight is. If you go get a toxin, like hair mineral tests or fat biopsies of what chemicals you have in your body, it's not going to be exactly accurate because you might be storing a lot in your fat in your butt or in your brain tissue because your brain is 60% fat, but it's not going to be the same reading. So it would be nice if we could just scan someone and say, all right, this is what's in them. We don't have that technology yet. And so I think that's kind of a barrier for people for taking this issue as serious as it is. Um, but a liver detox is great. Those things are great if they're done properly. This takes it to another level because it's literally like the fat cells right in your whole body. And I think part of the reason sort of like the cognitive component is so significant is because you're detoxing. The argument is you're detoxing your brain as well. Like when you get in a sauna and you do those protocols, you're sweating out toxins that could be messing with brain function to some degree. And so
Wow.
IQ tests are a little finicky, but people who've done the niacin sauna protocol before and after have reported increases in IQ. It's not as big of a study as I'd like to see, but certainly kind of like self-reporting. Large people will subjectively say, I feel like my brain's sharper. I think my thinking's clearer. And
Right.
that's kind of the reason why is you're getting stuff out that's robbing you of kind of like the way it should be working. And my belief is that's just kind of like most people. And it's this invisible issue. So everyone's kind of suppressed and we don't
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. Um, allergies.
Yeah.
Allergies is a big thing. Um, it's a really big thing based on how the Eastern world treats it versus how the Western world treats it.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about toxins and chemicals, like at this point, I think it's a lot more the way that I see people complaining and as much medicine as they're putting out now. I believe it's a lot more to do than just pollen flying around, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like that it used to be back in the day. Um, but when you go see an allergist, it's not necessarily, we're going to make it better, or we're going to give you the skin test. We'll give you the skin test to figure out what you're allergic to. But then again, they're only testing for things like, what's outside. When fact of the matter, it could be like you're saying something that's really blocking on the inside, which is toxins and chemicals.
Yeah.
And I don't think allergists look into that. And I think that's a huge problem amongst allergy sufferers.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I would wake up when I was 10 years old during the spring and my eyes would be crusted over and I couldn't breathe through my nose because I was so congested. I haven't had allergies in a few years now. I don't know if that maybe it's linked to what I'm talking about. I don't know. But I think there's certainly ties to all this health stuff and sort of the allergy symptoms you experience. And so
Right.
there's a lot of arguments around autoimmune issues, like the body's attacking itself. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just have a ton of substances in your body that shouldn't be in there. And when you get those out, your body has been evolving for millions of years and is meant to work properly. It's just the last
Right.
60 years we've introduced a slew of like things that mess with your body into the environment. So when you get those out, maybe that helps. So it's interesting talking to people because everyone has different levels of awareness around this.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard to remember kind of where kind of culture is with these ideas.
Man, listen, Justin, I commend you. I commend you on doing the research, and setting this aside to say, I recognize that, this is something that cured me. You mentioned that your brain fog, like that's huge in a sense that no one knows or can put a finger on what's causing them brain fog.
Yeah.
But you can know what takes it away. You can know
Yeah.
if after you get in the sauna, if you come out of there and you're crystal clear and concise and on point, you know what took it away. You may not know what caused it, but you definitely know what took it away.
Right. And I mean, like if you told me, hey, I'm having some brain fog, I can only understand what you mean through my own experience because I'm not in your brain or experiencing your body or what it's like to be you. And so with a lot of these health things, it's hard to have a comparison for what a change in how you feel would be on the other side of it until you experience it. And so a lot of people who get into sauna and start doing it, they become almost fanatical about it, but it's hard for people to understand why until they kind of experience it because you it's kind of like if you have sunglasses on all day long for 10 years and then you took your sunglasses off. Like when you had the sunglasses on, you got used to seeing the world and feeling the world like that. But then when you
Right.
take them off, it's a change. And so I think this is one of those things that could really change how people feel moment to moment.
Well, hey, man, I'll tell you this much. Last February, I bought the highest package, 24-hour fitness. I bought the highest package
Okay.
so I could get in the sauna.
Great.
I haven't been in the sauna yet.
There you're going though.
But you just talked me into going. I,
Perfect.
I I haven't been in it yet, man, and you just gave me a reason to really. And I had the idea that sweating is a good thing for the body and to
Mm-hmm.
detoxify. I did have that idea, but yeah, man, you kind of just really showed me that it's a part of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And in order for you to stay detoxified and getting these things out of your system and to keep a clear mind, that's something that don't just hit the weights, don't just do the treadmill, make it a complete lifestyle for your mind and body.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about making it doable. You know, like if you're can only get to a sauna 2.5 hours away, it's unlikely you're gonna make sauna part of your life. But if it's at your gym or you can get one for your home, and I talk about the different ways to make it a part of your habits in the book. Um, making it doable, making it not a chore, so that you feel better day to day, but you're also protecting yourself down the line.
Cool, cool, cool. Uncovering your body's hidden superpower.
Mhm.
Um, that's it, man. We could all be Avengers out here. We could
That's
all
the
have
goal.
take take care of your body, take care of yourself, take care of your mind, and you'll have superpowers. Um, Justin, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Where can people find you if they're looking for you or looking to purchase your book?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. That was great. The book, hopefully we can put the show link in the show links. It's on
Definitely.
Amazon, Kindle, paperback, hardcover. So a few options for people. It's a quick read. It's no fluff, just 130 pages. So it's quick and
Yeah.
easy. You can get it through in a day or two and reference it for what you decide to use from it. And then in terms of getting to me, if people want to email with any questions or, if they like it or want to reach out for any reason, justin@sweatthebook.com. My Twitter is Hey Justin Glazer, and my Instagram is Justin Glazer7. Hopefully, we can get that all in the notes for people. But yeah, I love when people reach out as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely put them in the notes. I guess the last question I have for you, Justin, is do you
Yeah,
do any public speaking with this book?
I haven't yet, but I'd love to. It's been out
Okay.
for a couple months now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll reach out with you. I'll reach out to you with a couple ideas for that. I believe this is something that you could very much get out to the
Oh, great.
world.
Would love that.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, man. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure meeting you and talking with you.
Likewise.
And have a great evening. And I'll be in touch soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right now.